Hey guys, welcome back to yet another interesting topic, and today's topic is about vocabulary. See, to learn English, we all have to collect vocabulary or start knowing more and more new words and vocabulary or building up on vocabulary. That will help us to speak English, to come up with sentences and a lot of things, right? So the most important part in learning English is vocabulary. Okay, and which many of us finds little difficult. We think, where do we get the vocabulary, how do we use it, and what are the steps to understand a vocabulary, or what are the techniques wherein we can memorize those vocabularies, right? So a lot of things are there, a lot of questions are there within us which we come up with, right? So the most important thing is how to memorize vocabulary, or how to keep that vocabulary in our active memory so that we can use it and we don't forget words while we are speaking in English, and we don't go blank, right? It's all related to vocabulary. If we feel short of words, if we forget words, we are not able to translate it into sentences, and we are not able to use right sentences, right? So it all boils down to vocabulary. So guys, welcome back. I am your communications coach and a soft skill trainer by profession, and I'm here to help you out with all your communications problems and to help you out to speak English fluently and confidently. Well, to start with, today's topic is about vocabulary. How to learn vocabulary. Learn vocabulary so that it remains with us, or it stays in our head and we can use it, or it becomes an active vocabulary, right? So that it's ready in our brains and we can use it whenever we require. Okay, now before understanding how we can do it and all, I would like to tell you about your brain. Okay, so we have two types of memories. One is short-term memory and another one is long-term memory. Short-term memory is something which stays in our brains for a short duration of time, right? Whereas long-term memory is something which stays for a long period of time, and it's like, whenever you recall something about your childhood or some incident, it immediately comes to your head, right? It immediately comes to your mind and you can speak about it. So not every occasion doesn't come to your mind, right? Everything since beginning, you were born till date, you don't remember everything, right? So those are specific moments which you remember and you are able to recall, which means it is in your long-term memory. And short-term memory is something which is not permanent. It is like it stays for a duration of time and it vanishes. Okay, so in order to learn a vocabulary, we have to store it in our long-term memory. That is the key. So we have to learn techniques how we can store these vocabulary in our long-term memory. So as and when required, we can recall that vocabulary and we can use it. Okay, so let's get started. The first one is rehearse. Now what does that mean? If you come across a word, right? So as I told you that whenever you come across a word, write it down, write down the meaning and use it in 2 or 3 sentences and try repeating it, every 1 day or 2 day or 3 day, give a gap and then repeat it so that it doesn't go away. And whenever you get time, you just try to use that vocabulary in your sentences. So when you start using that vocabulary in your sentences, it will be, you will be practicing or rehearsing that every single day. So it will stay in your memory. And the longer you take that word, longer in the sense the longer duration you use the word, longer duration as in, probably for a month or 2 months or 3 months, if you start using that word every single day, probably, then it will be there in your long-term memory. Okay, so that is ideally not possible. But there is a theory which is called space repetition. Okay, you can just Google it out about this theory. So in short, I'm going to tell you that, so what you can do is you can take a word and you can practice it 1 to 3 hours, you can practice it. And then again, after 24 hours, you start practicing it again. After 72 hours, again, rehearse the word. Then after 3 weeks and after two months. Now, in this way, you will be able to recall also, okay, what word you have used, or what sentences you have made, and it will stay there for a longer duration of time, or it will stay in your long term memory then. So for example, when we think of any incident, not every incident comes to our mind immediately, right? If we think of some particular incident which we are able to recall, there's a pattern, right? Since childhood, probably, somebody has told you, or you recall it, so it's a pattern, like, it just comes up whenever you meet people, or you are with your parents and your siblings, then that incident comes up. So occasionally it happens. Like for me, it happens, like, in my childhood, I used to become a teacher. As I told you, I used to be like a teacher, and I used to study on a blackboard and a chalk. I used to take a chalk and a blackboard, and I used to study in that method. So since childhood, I have been listening to this story every now and then with whoever comes, or my mother or my father or my siblings. Whenever we meet, they come up with this, oh, in your childhood you used to do this. So now it's there in my memory, like, so that is why whenever I recall, or I speak about like how I learned English or something, I am able to recall that incident. I can say that, I used to do this activity, so it helped me to speak English. So this is how repetitions, if that incident is repeated in your life, or you speak about it, or somebody speaks about it, then it stays in your long-term memory. It's the same with the word also. You try using the word in a pattern, okay, so that it gets into your memory and doesn't go away easily. Okay, so that is how you have to do the rehearsal part. Second one is reading. Reading out loud. So whenever you get a piece of information or an article or anything, any book you have, a storybook, a novel, or any textbook probably, you try to read it out loud, or a newspaper for instance, read it out loud. Okay, now what will happen in that? So you'll come across a lot of words there, and you will get to know the word in context. As I told you in my earlier videos also, one word in English has several meanings, and it is used in context with a sentence, right? As I gave you an example of a watch, I am watching you, or I say I am wearing a nice watch. So two different contexts I have used watch, the word watch. Okay, so it's the same with English. A lot of vocabularies, a lot of words are used in different contexts, in different sentences. So when you read out loud, you'll get to know the context also about the word, like which context it is used in that sentence. Okay, and you will get a hang of it, you will get an understanding of it, and you can also use it likewise. You can also construct sentences likewise. So that is one benefit. The second benefit is pronunciation. Okay, you will be able to speak out words, your mouth movement, the lip movement, your tongue movement, a lot of things, you will be open to, pronouncing English words, or you will be adapted to pronouncing English words. So your pronunciation will also, it will help in your pronunciation as well. And to make your pronunciation like it works, like if you're pronouncing well, so you can start listening also, like how those words are pronounced also. So if you do these activities simultaneously, your pronunciation skills will also improve. Okay, you don't have to then again focus on pronunciation. It will be simultaneous. Okay, you can read out loud, you can listen to something, and then you can pronounce the words also, like how it is pronounced. So it will be a simultaneous process. Okay, now comes the third thing, is storytelling, or coming up with a summary, whatever you say. Okay, so it's like basically you are using that word and coming up with new sentences, and then once you come up with new sentences, then you can come up with a short paragraph or a short story, or whichever you like, or you are comfortable with. As the last day I shared an activity with you, like for example, take a word. Let's take a word watch. Okay, now we can come up with as many sentences as we can, and let's see how many sentences we can come up with. Okay, I'm wearing a nice watch. I can watch birds from my balcony. The birds are chirping. The chirping sound is so peaceful. I really like that sound. There's a lot of sound coming from outside. I have a plan for dinner. Today I'm going out for dinner. So likewise, you can come up with as many sentences as you can. Okay. So this is like, you're coming up with a paragraph. You can turn into a story. You can turn into anything which you like. You just keep on making sentences out of it. So that is how you will learn that vocabulary, and you will learn to use that vocabulary, and you will remember that vocabulary as well. Okay. The fourth method is learn the antonyms or opposites. As I told you that, whenever you learn a word, you just try to find out some synonyms also. Synonyms are the words which are similar to a particular word, or the word in context which you are using. Okay, it will help you if you forget a word. It will help you to replace it with that word. Okay, so that is the benefit of synonyms. Antonyms are exactly the opposite of the word in context. Okay, the word which you are using, the opposite of that word is called antonyms. Antonyms are also very helpful when you are learning vocabulary. So if you don't know that exact word, you can use the antonym to say it is not this. Okay, so antonyms also, if you look for synonyms, if you look for antonyms, those are also the vocabulary, those are also words. So you're building on words. So you just make up your mind that, okay, so this is a word, these are the synonyms, and these are the antonyms. Okay, so for one word, you know a lot many words now. Okay, your vocabulary is increasing now, in this way, knowing the synonyms and antonyms also. So you just have to work on it, so that your vocabulary is, you're building up on your vocabulary. Okay, and it will be easier for you to remember also, because that particular word, similar words and opposite words. Okay, so it will be in sync with you. You will be able to recall it. Okay, so this word, the opposite of this word is this, or the similar to this word is this. Okay, so it will be easier for you to recall, right? So this is how you can learn vocabulary. And these are the very quick and easiest methods which I am telling you guys. The one thing you have to keep in mind is you have to practice. You get a word, don't put in your notebook and then sleep, or think that your task is over. You know this word, you know the meaning, and then everything is over, or you make 1 or 2 sentences and things are done. No, you have to repeat it every single day or after some duration. So as you make a study plan, you have to, the vocabulary should be a priority. You have to rehearse it every single day, after some days, after a week, and then after a month. So like this, when you start rehearsing or using that particular word or vocabulary in your sentences, the more you use, the better you get. Okay, the better you get at using it, and the better you are able to remember it. This is the only mantra, guys. So you have to go for it. Learn this with simple methods, and definitely you are not going to forget it. Take it from me. See you. Bye-bye.